Hello and welcome back to Civil Engineering Exam Prep. And today we are going to discuss this very question, which is why did we stop building houses out of mud? You know what's strange? For almost all of human history, if you wanted to build a house, you would probably start by looking down, not at hardware store, not at a cement factory, but at the ground, the very soil beneath your feet. Think about that for a second. For thousands of years, humans built houses using mud, clay, earth, straw, and whatever local materials they could find. And then something bizarre happened. In barely 100 years, we collectively decided, nope, we are done with that. Today, if somebody says that they are building a mud house, people react as if they are doing something experimental or primitive, or maybe they are trying to live off grid. But here's the question that got stuck in my head. If mud was such a terrible building material, how did it survive for 10,000s of years? Because let's be honest, nobody uses a bad technology for 10,000 years. People abandoned floppy disks, people left VHS tapes, people left typewriter. But why mud houses? They outlived empires. Entire civilization was built from earth, and some of those structures are still standing, which means the story we have been told is probably incomplete. Most people think we stop using mud because concrete is stronger. That sounds reasonable, except that's not really the whole story. In fact, some of the advantages of mud have absolutely nothing to do with strength. Let me explain. Imagine it's May in Pune. 40 degrees outside, you walk in a modern concrete room. What the first thing you do? Switch on the fan, maybe the AC. Now, imagine walking into an old earthen house. Many people who have experienced this say the same thing. It feels cooler, not air conditioned, just cooler. Why? When I first started reading about this, I assumed it was because mud is somehow a natural cool material. But that's not really what's happening. The real reason is much more clever. Those walls were often ridiculously thick, half a meter sometimes, or sometimes more, and heat moves slowly through that thick material. So, when the afternoon sun is blasting the outside wall, the heat begins its journey inward. But it travels so slowly that by the time it reaches the inside, the sun is already setting. Think about that. Ancient builders were essentially delaying summer from entering the house without knowing the equations, without the simulation software, without thermal modeling. They just figured it out through observation. And then I found something even stranger. Mud houses don't just regulate temperature, they regulate humidity too. The walls actually absorb moisture from the air, then release it later. The building is constantly interacting with the environment. Almost it's like breathing animal. Now, obviously it's not alive, but compared to a concrete wall, it's surprisingly dynamic, which made me wonder if these houses were naturally cooler, naturally regulating humidity, built from the local material. Why did we abandon them? And this is where the story gets interesting because I don't think engineering was the main reason. I think economics was. Imagine you are a bank. You need to finance 1 million houses. Would you rather approve a house built from local soil with properties that vary from village to village, or a house built from standardized concrete following the standardized code? The answer is very obvious. The bank chooses concrete. The insurance company is going to choose concrete. The developer is going to choose concrete. The government is going to choose concrete. Not because mud stopped working, but because concrete fits into the industrial edge. And then another thing happened. Air conditioning arrived. This may be the biggest plot twist in the whole story. For thousands of years, architects had one job: make the building comfortable. They used courtyards, verandas, thick walls, wind towers, shading, ventilation. Everything revolved around climate. Then air conditioning showed up and basically said, don't worry about any of that. I will handle it. And suddenly, architecture changed. The building no longer had to adapt to the climate. Machines adapted the climate to the building. And once that happened, many traditional ideas quietly disappeared. The courtyard, the thick wall, the passive cooling strategies, even though they still work. What's funny is that today researchers are spending millions trying to reinvent things that mud houses were already doing. Passive cooling, humidity control, low carbon construction, thermal mass, climate responsive architecture. We are studying these concepts in laboratories and our ancestors were living inside them. So maybe the real question isn't why did we stop building houses out of mud? And the real question maybe is why did we stop designing buildings around nature? Because for thousands of years, the sun mattered, the wind mattered, the season mattered, and building responded to them. Today, many buildings simply plug into an air conditioner and hope for the best. And that's why I don't think mud lost to concrete. Not really. Concrete won a different game, a game involving speed, standardization, urbanization, finance, mass construction. Mud wasn't defeated at all. The rules just changed. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that modern engineering is slowly rediscovering some of the wisdom that was buried in the ground all along. So that's it for the podcast today. I will see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye bye.